Let's make some of our own treasures from someone else's trash. Hi there, my name is Sandra, and you're watching Christmas at the Schwovin's Nest. Thanks for joining me today. For my first project, I picked this up at the thrift store for $2, and it has a really nice look to it, but I'm not a silver person. I'm not really into glitter and stuff like that. So I decided to just give it a fresh coat of sheepskin chalk paint. This is from Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint, and it's sort of like an ivory color. You can see there that I tried doing a little bit of antique wax first, but I didn't like that look. It looked a little too dirty. So I'm just going to do this instead, and one coat will do the trick. I've set the pot aside to dry, and now I'm going to work on a Christmas tree. I actually haven't made my own little mini Christmas tree yet this year, so I decided to create one using these frosted lamb's ear, and I'm going to be adding some other greenery later on as well. This big stick I cut off in the fall from one of my branches in the backyard, and I just kept a few for projects. If you don't have something this thick, you could definitely just use a dowel, a spindle, or even a smaller branch would do. You just want it to be able to stand fairly sturdily on its own. I'm using hot glue to apply the lamb's ear, and I'm kind of pressing it down so you can see it has that shape there. You can see here that I'm already to the top of my branch. I did stagger all of the leaves, so it is in a brick lay pattern. And if you take a look at a wall of bricks, you'll understand the concept. To create the peak of the tree, I glued two leaves together. You can see them there, they kind of fell over. And then I'm going to glue them right onto the top edge of the branch. Then I'll add a couple of more on the other side. Here's what it looks like so far. I'm really loving how this is coming together. I love that frosted lamb's ear. But there are a couple of sort of empty spots or spots that aren't as thick as the other areas. So I've decided to add some other greenery too. But before I do that, I wanted the peak of the tree to be a little bit taller and a little bit more smaller or narrower, I guess. So I'm just adding a couple more of these smaller leaves. Then I'm going to take two of the little tiny leaves and just put them on the tree standing straight up. This is the greenery that I'm adding. It's boxwood, but it has a dusted look to it. So I thought it tied in perfectly with the color and sparkle of the lamb's ear. I've cut down each of the little stems into some smaller sprigs, and I'm going to be gluing them just wherever I think it needs a little bit more zhuzh, and to also help fill out the tree and make it look nice and round all the way around. Now I'm going to take the tree and I'm going to do something a little unconventional. I have turned this pot upside down and I'm going to be gluing the tree onto the bottom of the pot. I looked at it right side up and I just didn't like how the tree was looking. So I decided to flip it over, and lo and behold, that was the ticket. I really love how this tree turned out. If you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If you like what you see, I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button and help the growth of my channel. Thanks to all of my current subscribers and viewers. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I'm going to upcycle this cow canister. I bought a set of four of them. What I did was take this one outside, gave it a couple of coats of white flat spray paint, brought it inside, gave it one coat of Fusion Mineral Paint in Picket Fence, and then added the crockery stamp that you see here right in the front. Now I'm just going to be taking some buffalo check ribbon or gingham ribbon, and this one is from the Dollar Tree. And at first I thought I would just tie a regular bow, but I didn't like how that was looking. So what I did was undo this and just tie a regular knot off to the side. Then I trimmed off the tails to the length I wanted, and I didn't do the dovetail for these. I just did it on an angle on each side. With the remainder of this ribbon, I'm going to create a two-finger bow. I have a slow tutorial down in my description box. So if you're interested in learning how to do one of these, you can go ahead and check out that video. But basically what you do is hold two fingers apart, you hang on to the ribbon with your thumb as you're wrapping it through. Then you take the end of the ribbon, put it through your fingers, bring it up and over, and then have it go through the loop you just created, then swing it back and forth to make it tight. I love making these bows, and I had never been a bow person before, but once I figured out how to make these, I really love how they turn out. I'm going to fluff it up and then cut the tails on this one the same way that I did for the first one. And then I'm going to just hot glue it onto the ribbon. I'm going to be very careful to make sure that I don't get any hot glue on the canister because this canister can be used for year round. It's just being decorated for the Christmas season. I'm going to be adding a couple of little sprigs of greenery and a pine cone. Again, just gluing it right onto the ribbon, and this project is complete. Now, if you don't have the IOD crockery stamps, no worries. There are so many different types of silicone stamps that you can get online on Amazon, and you can also check out Beebee Craft. I have a link for them down in my description box, and there's still a coupon code available for use. It expires next year sometime. This next project is using an old piece of garland that I had spray painted white many years ago. And instead of throwing it out, I decided to do something with it. Now, when I have this type of garland, which is the same as the Dollar Tree Christmas trees or their wired garland, it looks a little fake. So what I like to do is take my scissors and trim it so it's nice and short. And this just makes it look a lot nicer, a little bit more high end. And I really think it makes a big difference. I found this really beautiful grapevine wreath that sort of got a grayish frosted look. It was $6 at a local dollar store here in Canada. And what I'm going to do is simply just take all of these garland pieces because they are wired themselves and literally just poke them into the grapevine wreath. So I'm just going to keep doing that, and I'm going to just go in one direction, and I'm going to keep it just towards the bottom portion of the wreath. Once I have that complete, I'm going to be adding some of this boxwood greenery. Again, I like adding different types of greenery to my projects because that just makes them look a little bit nicer, more put together, more high-end looking, something that you would find at the store. I found this boxwood greenery on Amazon. Now it does come with a tiny little white flower. You might be able to see that a little bit on the stem sitting there to the left, but I can easily just pull that off, and these are perfect boxwood leaves. I really like the combination of the frosted look with just the green look because it just adds so much texture and dimension. I'm going to just add as many as I think that looks good. For a little bit more texture and color, I'm going to add some of these little mini pine cones. If you don't have pine cones, I have a link for some mini hemlock ones down in my description box. But Well, there's pine cones on the ground all over the place. So just go for a walk, stick a plastic bag in your pocket, and see what you can find. In one of my previous videos, I had taken two plastic reindeer and painted them black first and then went over them with some burnt umber paint. And I've decided to add these two to my wreath, and I think they just add a really sweet vintage charm. I'm going to try to get them to stand up and just use a really big amount of hot glue to hold them in place. And it did work. They're very sturdy right now. I have them hanging on my door and they're not wiggling off at all. So check out the ornament sitting in the top left corner. This is what I used to have when I first got married. I was into pinks and purples and really bright Christmas decor. And I've had these bulbs for a really long time. So I decided to make them over instead of throwing them out. I'm using some of the IOD clay molds. I got these for half price at an antique mall a while ago, so I definitely jumped on that. These are just some swags and flowers and different things. So I decided to just work with my ornaments and see what I could come up with. So what I'm doing here is I started by putting a little bit of cornstarch into the mold, and I'm using Das clay, DAS. You can see the red and white package there. It's available at Michael's and I believe it's online as well. And this clay is just as good as the IOD clay. I have tried both and I'm happy with the results of this one as well. It's much less expensive than the IOD clay. For some of these longer molds, I did have to trim them down a little bit, but that's fine. And I'm using Gorilla Glue Clear Grip. I'm putting the glue on the ornament first because that is just helping me to figure out where I want to put it. And then once I have the clay on there, I'll be able to make sure that there's enough glue as well to keep it in place. You have to be really gentle with this. If you do any extra pulling, the clay will definitely rip. And even just pushing it down, I found that sometimes I was pushing a little too hard and then I lost some of the design. So you have to just be very gentle with these. Once the clay was completely dry, I let these sit for a couple of days. And then I took some Fusion Mineral Paint in the color Picket Fence, and I'm going to be painting the clay as well as the ornaments. Now, the clay only needed one coat, but the ornaments needed a couple of coats to camouflage all of that purple. The white paint is completely dry, and I actually really like the look of these too, but I wanted to give them more of a vintage look. I'm using a sample paint pot of the Fusion Mineral Paint, and this is the color Fort York Red. I'm not going to give it a solid coat. There's a little bit of white and some brush strokes going to be showing, but when I do my next step, you won't even notice that. I painted each of the ornaments a different color, a light gray, a sage green, and then an ivory color. Now what I'm doing is taking some white wax and I'm going to be waxing the darker colors. This is a little jar that I have some clear wax in and I've just added some white paint to it. And then I just close up the jar and I've got my white wax. I don't buy different colors of wax. The only ones I buy are clear wax and antiquing wax because then with the clear wax, you can make whatever color wax you want. How many times did I just say the word wax? Oh my gosh. Anyhow, once I've got it applied, I'm just taking a paper towel and just pouncing a little bit because I want to have some texture. I want it to just look old and aged. I'm going to do the white wax on the red, the gray, and the green ornament, and then I'm going to be doing the antiquing wax on the sheepskin color. When I got to the ivory or the sheepskin one, I decided to use some of my gel stain instead of the antiquing wax. It was just a little bit more of a warmer color. The antiquing wax I have is from Folk Art, and I'm really not in love with the color. I think I probably will try some other different brands. If you have a really good brand of brown antiquing wax that you really like to use and you love that color, let me know down in the comments because I'm on the hunt for something a little bit different. This gel stain is in the color dark walnut, and that's the color I like the most. So I'm going to just apply it onto the clay portion first, and then I'm going to do the same thing with my paper towel. I'm going to dab off the excess, and I think out of all of them, this one turned out to be my favorite. I decided not to put the ornaments on the tree, but I grabbed this bamboo tray that I found at my local dollar store, and I'm just going to be adding some greenery, and then I'm going to pile them up and just keep adding greenery until I have an arrangement that I like. These cedar branches were also an Amazon purchase last year. I like them, but I probably wouldn't purchase them again, so I don't have a link for you. I would love to have more of a green cedar. This was very deceiving when I looked at it online. But anyhow, I'm going to use it because I got it. I think I'm going to be adding some of these bottle brush trees, but then when took a look at it, I decided that I wanted to have just the ornaments and not the bottle brush trees. So what I did was just keep adding different types of greenery. Again, that's my favorite thing to do. It just makes it look more natural. And some frosted, some just green, a little bit of red berries, and I think this turned out really pretty. You'll have to let me know what you think of these types of ornaments and which one might have been your favorite. I hope you enjoyed these trash to treasure vintage inspired Christmas decor ideas. Wow, try saying that a couple times fast. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and that notification bell. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.